We are back with yet another MMA Vivisection. If you since we're doing this one live, if you just got done watching the UFC 186 Vivi, then and you're now watching this tuned in, you watch far too much recorded MMA breakdowns, and
This is
get outside, get a job, do something else with your life, hug your kids, mow your lawn. There are better ways. But if you're fresh to us, fresh to the Invicta breakdown, then we're more than happy to have you because obviously you're a dedicated fan and we love you. I'm joined this time around by the BE Mod crew and the Invicta breakdown crew, Damon, Dio, and Victor Rodriguez. You guys, thanks for being here. I'm taking Vic. You get the first talk first because Dio's eating his lunch.
and I
And
didn't bring enough for the class.
Yeah, not because I'm any better than him, but just yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, first off, a lot of very exciting cards, very exciting fights on this card. Stylistic matchups that look pretty solid, and as pretty much what we've come to expect. Some newcomers at the bottom, some more seasoned vets in the middle, and then somewhat top heavy. In this case, with a championship bout at the top, even if it's not their most famous champion or their most notable. Still very promising in terms of action, even though you're not going to have perhaps the most marquee names. But they are building somewhat of a foundation for the future, and this is going to be, hopefully, I have very solid expectations in terms of how this is going to deliver.
What he said.
fuck, you're so done. You're never coming back. Anyway,
No,
okay.
there are a few on here where it's going to be the usual one-sided drubbings. That will, especially at the top half of the card. It's always going to be fun to watch those. So.
All right. The things have got off to a rocky start, obviously. Anyway, so what have we seen with Invicta since their last show? That, it's been February to April, so we got a month, we got 2 months in there more or less. Last show we saw, Cyborg come back, beat the brakes off Charmaine Tweet in a completely predictable fashion.
Yep.
And some big, Alexa Grasso making a name for herself out there. Irene Aldana sort of establishing herself as a pretty decent up and comer. I'm trying to think. Has there been any big news for Invicta in the meantime? Have we seen anything new from them?
Outside of the whole revelation, I guess you could kind of say revelation, that Cyborg is actually signed to Zuffa, just still under the Invicta umbrella, which is its own weird little conspiracy theory thing that you see on the internet. But yeah, so other than that, they seem to sign a new person every 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
They just have a constant flow, especially in the strawweight division, which, they knew it was a marquee division for a while, and now they're restocking. They're even picking up some atomweights too. So those are the only real big ones.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're having trouble finding women who want to get fights. That's, the good side for them is that there are no lack of fighters coming in to fill out the ranks for every card.
Yeah, and very talented fighters too. It should be noted they're picking up a lot of prospects all over, not just the U.S. but parts of Europe. It's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do from here. But I like the fact that they're filling out their roster like that.
This is a very U.S. heavy card, though. Definitely, at least looking at the wiki for it, we've got like 3 Brazilians, an Aussie, and a Finnish fighter, and then everybody else is from the U.S. But yeah, like they're definitely keeping all avenues of talent acquisition open. I hope it's one of those things that they can keep working out and keep bringing fighters in, new fighters in, and bringing back fighters that have already fought for them, and just keep putting on cards. I mean, they've already got the next one set up after this for Cyborg's next featherweight fight against whoever. I think Amanda Bell is hoping for that title shot off of a win off this card, so we'll talk about that when we get to it.
which she will lose emphatically if she
Oh
does.
yeah, no, it's not a question of who beats Cyborg or who challenges Cyborg. It's really just a question of who does Cyborg maul next time out.
Basically.
Anyway, we're gonna get into the main card here in a minute, but I figure we'll take a look at the prelim card. Maybe not hit every fight. Not a lot of fighters on here that jump off the page. I know that Vic briefly mentioned Sahara Eubanks in the opening bout as a great BJJ grappler that is making the transition to MMA. Any way you can expand on that a little?
Yeah, she's been doing jiu-jitsu for a number of years now, about 7 years or so. She's been she's been very decorated doing regional tournaments and just been doing tremendous work. And she's finally making her professional debut, even though she has had a few. She's had one amateur bout, and that's pretty much the extent of that. However, it was in 2013. I'm not sure how that's going to affect her or not. Hopefully, she's worked on making sure she has a more complete game. And she's taken on a very tough opponent, Gina Begley, who's not a slouch on the ground as well. So that seems very promising, too. So as far as that particular bout goes, that's pretty much that. Also, we've got the return of Delaney Owen, and she's going to be taking on a very tough Sharon Jacobson. That's going to be a matchup definitely to watch out for.
Yes.
Yeah, at least when I look up Sharon Jacobson and look out for her, I do see actual photos of her wrestling people at what appears to be a reasonably high level. That's always a good sign for a young, especially for women in MMA, because there are so few really experienced wrestlers out there that it's always good to see somebody breaking into the sport who has at least somewhat of a pedigree. I'm not sure how high or deep that pedigree is, but it really doesn't take a lot. I mean, we've already seen that Juliana Lima is one of the better MMA wrestlers out there, and she's off that vaunted Brazilian wrestling scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
but it should
Jacobson
also
hits like a truck. So that's another thing to add. Is that weird wrestler kind of power that a lot of them tend to have. So
I was about to mention that she's very she's very unpolished. I mean, let's just be very frank about this. When it comes to her striking and her stand-up game, it's not really there. What she mostly does is bull rush her opponent, press her against the cage, pretty much like Cain Velasquez, to hold that pressure and just start wailing on him from there. And she hits god-awful hard. So that's going to be pretty tough to deal with when you're someone like Delaney Owen, who does have a pretty savvy submission game. That I'm going to be looking forward to a lot. Keep your eye on this one, because this could lead to certain things in the future if it goes well.
yeah, that belt level will continuously drop the more she gets hit in the face, though. So that's.
All right. So the only other fight I recognize really on this undercard is Peggy Morgan, and that's really just because we saw her on The Ultimate Fighter and very briefly in the UFC, and she's slowly been kind of crafting herself an MMA career. Fought a couple times last year, lost to Irene Aldana, but won her last fight against Andrea Waro. Do you know how she? Do you know anything about Latoya Walker? Is that really a fight that? I mean, I'm not picking. Peggy Morgan's not a slam dunk pick to beat anyone, but is this a fight that she's winning?
No. I mean, the thing is, Peggy Morton, no matter, she's made some improvements, but she is infinitely hittable. It's in just about every fight, even in the fights that she's won, she gets lit up. And, from what the little bit that I did see of Latoya Walker, she hits pretty hard. She's just super unpolished. That's the other thing. And she's got a music video, or a rap song dedicated to her, apparently, on YouTube, which was hot trash, but that's besides the point.
But still, that's immediately big scouting points right there that, digging up the music video, we're now, I feel a lot more comfortable in your knowledge of this pick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is this like Alexander Yakovlev, who has his own? Does she rap herself, or someone's rapping about her?
No, it's some awful local rappers that are rapping about her. It's bad.
Okay.
Like
Okay. All right. I'm gonna
it's
bookmark
MySpace
that. I gotta
level.
see that.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay. That's just my kind of thing. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, man, Peggy, she has cleaned up some of her game, but her defense is still a tremendous liability against someone who hits really hard as well with Latoya Walker. Seems to have a boxing base. She's already got one KO and one TKO on her record. She's only got, I believe, two amateur bouts. Or no, I'm sorry. She's got one win with one no contest. Uh, I don't see this ending well for Morgan. If she does not mind her P's and Q's, she will be visiting the land of wind and ghosts. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that bout. I don't see much promise in it in terms of what will happen after the bout, but at least it'll be worth watching.
She has a timeshare in the land of wind and ghosts at this point.
Is that a good efficiency plan? Like, is that one of those things where you get like 4 days a year, or
Yeah. Like, she's basically got a week booked after each fight that she has.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
just one of
Oh
those.
my God, that's
All
terrible.
right. Okay. So there's not a lot of difference here, but we do have a prelim and a main card. They're both gonna be on Fight Pass, I believe. Well, actually, the prelims. I don't know. Last time they were actually streaming live online just for free. I don't know if they're gonna be doing that again. If so, maybe we might have them on Bloody Elbow, or there'll be something you can watch on YouTube. They'll probably still be available to watch on Fight Pass either way. But then you got our main Fight Pass card, which I'm sure will be Fight Pass exclusive. Starting out with what should actually be a pretty decent fight, Edion Gomes, Raquel Paoluhi. Um, this is Paoluhi is one of those women who I think has kind of come on slow. She has a pretty unstructured game. Like, she's a big power puncher who has some ground, some ability with the ground, but that's definitely where she's tended to struggle,
Right.
and mostly relies on being the bigger, more powerful fighter. But Gomes is a fighter that seems like, I really had thought that she was going to be like a strong, consistent contender, and then Tanya Evinger just came out and just ran her out of the ring, basically. So, I don't know. This one looks a little more interesting and a little more competitive than I would have given it to be like a year or two ago. What do you think, Vic?
I would most certainly agree. Paolui's, and we mentioned her before in the Invicta event for November, which was her last fight. She's fought some tremendous talent. She's only really lost to higher level opponents. And, you got, Sarah DeLelio, Raquel Pennington, Amanda Nunes, and Sarah McMahon. I mean, aside from DeLelio, all the other three are in the UFC right now, and they've
Right.
all been tremendously tough opponents. So I kind of think that maybe she was thrown off into the deep end, kind of like Sokoju. Like, too much too soon. Not that you're not good. It's just you're taking on these opponents that you probably should not have been facing at that point. That said, Gomez, really, really brutal style, comes in, guns blazing, has a somewhat polished boxing game, and she's also got a really solid submission game. Only three losses are to who? Ronda Rousey, Tanya Evinger, who's very underrated on the ground, and Amanda Nunes as well. So, I mean, she's really a very reliable, tough veteran. I would say that she's got pretty much all the advantages to win, but I'm not counting Rocky out. I think she could very well probably do some damage standing.
I want to say that like Sokoju is the most backhanded compliment I've ever heard
Yes,
in
it is.
MMA.
Oh, come on. You know
Because the
what?
thing is, like, Sokoju, we know
You know what I
Sokoju
mean.
is.
You know
Like,
what I
Sokoju
mean.
has
Come
been
on.
thrown into the too deep end for like 8 years
for the
running.
past decade. So
Well,
like,
when I say
maybe,
that,
maybe
obviously,
he's still in the deep end. No, we just know
no.
he's not worth a damn past 3 minutes.
I'm not referring to that point. I'm just referring to the earlier portion of his career. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Come on now.
Yeah.
That was like the one portion he did really well was the early portion. like
Yeah, but he shouldn't have been fighting those guys, and then it paid off. It showed afterwards. It's like, yeah, you know what? You're not on this level. Just no.
No, for him, this is more of a it was one of those Tiagos, which one? Not Silva. Paulo Tiago. There you go. That's a better where it's been
Okay.
it was steady, and you saw like she definitely did get like Paulo Louis did get thrown into the deep end really quick. And the thing is, she hasn't looked terrible. She hasn't looked completely, outclassed in the fights that she did lose. She was still pretty competitive outside of like when came to wrestling with Sarah McMahon, which that we all kind of knew what was going to happen there. But she looked good all the way until she did. And Gomes is, while she does have a more well-rounded, she is. She kind of has that whole berserker rage thing that gets her into trouble when she loses. And she gets into one of those almost losing things almost every single fight because she is just way too rage-filled. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing with Gomes. Where I'm talking like I feel like I expected her to be like, oh, she's gonna be in the UFC any day, like making a run for like title contention again. Try to get another shot at Ronda Rousey, win or lose. Like I expected her to be like an obvious on her way fighter, like somebody who would dominate pretty well in Invicta and then move on. And that's not what we've really seen. Like that's just. I mean, I realized it was really only one loss to Evinger, but Evinger just took her to pieces. Like it was not competitive in any point in that fight. So yeah, I think I would expect Gomes to win, but Pa Louie, like we say, she's looked good even when she's losing generally.
Right. And one other thing too that you like, even like when we look at their records, Pa Louie kind of has had the better, higher level competition, and she's still looking at it. If you look at Gomes' resume, it's not too impressive, especially like, with the newer stuff with Hiroko Yamanaka. We know that she's tall, and she's tall. That's about it. Everybody else between that, outside of Leslie Smith, was kind of like,
Yeah.
So doesn't really have the real depth. So I'm kind of leaning towards Pa Louie here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gomes did pull it out.
Call it for Pa Louie, damn it! You want to take a stand? Take a stand.
There we go. Calling it for Pa Louie.
All right, that's what I like to hear. So next up, we got Faith Van Duyn versus Amanda Bell. This is, I believe, Van Duyn's debut. I think she was supposed to have an Invicta fight before this. It got derailed, I want to say.
Yeah. I believe it was due to injury. I'm not sure. I think she was supposed to fight. She was supposed to fight in the last event, I think it was, or probably the event prior to that.
She was supposed to have been fighting.
She had to pull out due to injury.
Charmaine Tweet at Invicta FC 10.
There we go.
That was supposed to be her fight, and Tweet failed the medicals. So that was the reasoning. And she's taking on Amanda Bell here. From what I've seen of Amanda Bell, what I remember seeing of her in Invicta in the past, she's just kind of like, she's a brawler. She's going to put it on you, or, live by the sword, die by the sword, or she's going to lose trying to put it on you. Van Duyn's more of a technical grappler kind of process, not necessarily the most physically imposing fighter, but at least a more consistent. Dio, got anything else to add to that?
Faith Van Duyn, she's been calling for it for like the past few weeks on, Facebook and Twitter, and her fans are like, "Oh yeah, this." You guys just got her ass kicked, but Amanda Bell hits hard, really hard. Yeah. Some of the others that we have talked about, oh yeah, they hit. No, she put Marina Shafir to pasture, who was just signed by Invicta also too. So wouldn't be surprised if we saw a rematch there sometime down the line. But I really don't see much that Faith Van Duyn can do here. Like, while Amanda Bell is mostly a brawler, she still is relatively good on the ground. So it's I don't really feel too good about Faith on this one.
Vic.
Yeah, well, to put this perhaps in a little more perspective, Van Duyn is mostly known for her kickboxing. She does have a ground game. It hasn't been shown, well, we haven't seen much of it. Amanda Bell's 5-1 as an amateur, in which that includes a victory, a TKO win over Jessamine Duke. 3-2 as a pro. She's been absolutely very, very intense when she fights. She goes in there and she's gotten a lot smarter in terms of her positioning, in terms of her defense. And she's only raised that pace, that grinding, constant assault pace. And I don't know if Van Duyn's going to be able to deal with that, really. So I really don't know how I can pick Faith Van Duyn. I'd be very surprised if she won this fight. But again, this definitely looks like it's going to promise on the action end, and certainly will be worth watching.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we've just seen from Belle is that she's only getting beat by women who can really outmuscle her, take her shots, and come back with more power. Tamika Brents and Charmaine Tweet, they're both big, strong fighters.
Yeah.
I don't know that anything I've seen from Van Duyn suggests that she's got that part of the game on lock.
Yeah.
So co-main event time, short card. Only 9 fights, so we're already at the co-main event. Vanessa Porto, Roxanne Modafferi, good fight. I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I would have picked Porto 9 times out of 10. I would have just said, she's got this. It's on lock, easy money. I'm now extremely distracted. But, Modafferi has been doing great lately. She looks good, and I don't know. She might, part of me says that this is where her role ends. This is where Porto's not only is Porto a decent technical, more athletic fighter, but she's also a fighter with the technical depth and the experience to not get overwhelmed by Modafferi being a better pressure fighter than she used to be. Like Andrea Lee kind of got overwhelmed by that. Just
Right.
the ability, having a fighter that was just going to stand in her face and just keep pressing her and not give her time to set things up. I don't see Porto maybe getting as thrown off by that. But Vic, what do you think? Do you think that Modafferi could steal this one?
I don't think she's going to steal it. I think she's going to actually be quite dominant in certain spots of it. She might even finish this. I'm that confident, given her growth ever since she moved back to the U.S. and she joined Team Syndicate. We saw it in her stand-up game. We saw it against Andrea Lee, where she really showed much more of a growth as a complete fighter, from transitioning from striking to grappling back again. I mean, she's just, everything has finally come to the point where it clicks together really well for her. And I don't know if Porto's made that sort of evolution. I really don't. She's a very talented fighter, and this is going to be a hell of a fight too, especially if it hits the ground. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, but I just don't see how Porto does not have the advantage here in terms of how this would go. I'm really giving it to Modafferi, and I would not be surprised if there's a finish here.
Ooh, those are fighting words. Dio?
I kind of agree. It's yeah, I'm going to take heat for this, but Modafferi is the proverbial phoenix, like the Invicta logo. Oh, so corny. But yeah, Porto has been more consistent over her entire career, but she still has those same glaring weaknesses that she kind of always has. If things do not go her way, then she kind of just shuts down. And outside of her having a really, really hard overhand right, Roxanne's just showed way too much technical efficiency lately. I mean, that, if you, like you said, had you asked me last year, Porto beats, Modafferi 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10. But as it stands right now, I gotta go with Roxy.
And I gotta make a confession here that I just realized too, looking over it, that Modafferi already has a win over Vanessa Porto, of all things.
Yeah. Yes, she does.
So
It should also be noted, you know, you raised a very interesting point, though, Zane, and it's the fact that pressure fighters, you look at who's beat Porto, and it makes perfect sense because they kind of fit that mold. You know, you got Karina Dam, you know, Cyborg Justino, Amanda Nunes, Sarah DeLelio, Barb Honchak, all of them people that will keep a pace on you. And Porto, you know, hasn't really had any success against that kind of fighter. So you really hit it on the head with that there. And if Modafferi can do that, which I really believe firmly that she can do, it's going to be a long night for her.
Yeah. And I am now being terrorized by a wasp in my apartment. Fantastic.
oh gee, so like, are they? I don't have a good joke ready for that. I have a good white Anglo-Saxon Protestant joke for that. Are they
Waiting for it.
Christ.
See,
That's
it was
hilarious.
that was like so perfectly set up.
It was too good.
You know
It was
what?
too good.
That's amazing. I can't believe I woke up early and shaved my legs for this bullshit. For you people to do this.
For
This is
Dio to
most
be
embarrassing.
terrorized by wasps. Are they rollerblading outside your house? Is that what's going on?
No, the kids are outside wearing Heelys and whatnot in the parking lot. That's what it is. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough of
We're
that.
awesome.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say with Modafferi even having a win over Porto, that's a tough one. I can't, you know, you guys are both maybe swaying me that I might have to give the Happy Warrior her due here and say that she can take this fight because I do feel like I like Porto's game is much more consistent. It feels like to me like it's just like power boxing, top control grappling, power boxing, top control grappling. But she does tend to break when fighters are willing to lean on her, and I don't know. So, and she's not a finisher. Porto really is not a great finisher in general. Well, she was a great submission finisher early in her career, but lately she's just kind of been eking out decisions. And if she's probably not submitting Modafferi at all.
No.
So
Modafferi is the epitome of the crafty veteran when it comes to like even when it comes to like little small things like when she sets up an armbar, she will actually walk her legs over into the armbar as opposed to just haphazardly shooting for a catch or anything. So
that brings us to our title fight. The main event, strawweight champ Katja Kankaanpaa versus Livia Renata Souza. And Invicta is continuing their recent trend, and it's actually a trend that I'm fine with, of pulling the best regional vets they can for their title fights against their champs. Like rather than building up and trying, because they don't put on events, you know, once every couple of months and stuff like that, is really not enough events to build up great title contenders consistently. You know, you don't have the time when you're getting somebody 2 fights a year to say, oh, well, they're the next contender now. It's much better to, you know, find somebody in an organization that's running cards every month and who's got like 5 or 6 wins for the organization, is unbeaten, and just pull them in and say, okay, this is our new title challenger.
right.
So Livia Renata Souza is in that vein. Part of me wonders if she can pull off the Herca Tiburcio upset win, but I don't see the same kind of fire in Souza. That said, Kankaanpaa is a fighter that I don't know that I have a lot of trust in yet. You know, she looks tough and scrappy in her fights, but that Egg Inc. win was not like a dominating win. So I need a better read on this. Dio, can you give me a better read on this?
I hate to go with the old MMA blogosphere meme, but I never trust a Brazilian fighter that most of their career ends within the first round. Almost every single one, I think all but one, end in the first round within the first minute or so. So strength of competition, she does not have it. Yeah, she just does not have it. So, you know, we do know one thing is that Kankaanpaa can take an ass whooping because she took an ass whooping against Ed Gink. She took an ass whooping against Joanne Calderwood. It's she she can last through an entire 5-round or whatever it is fight, and she can she's still viable to score a submission. And being that she has gone the distance before, and Souza just really outside of the one where she went to the 3rd round really does not bode too well here. So.
Yeah, about that. You're certainly onto something because if you look at the records of the people that the fighters that Souza's been up against, I don't really trust that. I mean, Kankaanpaa's 10-1 and she only lost to Joanne Calderwood. Outside of that, she beat Carla Benitez, May Yamauchi, Aisling Daly, Juliana Lima, and recently Stephanie Agink. And what we saw, she got dominated for 4 rounds and change, but she still came back and she pulled it out of a hat. And that's perfectly fine. But you look at some of the other, like, for example, some of the fighters that Souza's fought. Let's just look at the numbers here. 7-6. What's the other one? 1-3, 3-3. I don't really see a strength of schedule here. I don't. There's only one fighter there who's got a solid winning record, and even though jiu-jitsu is very advanced, she is a very she is very talented with that. Is the rest of her game up to snuff? I don't really see it, and I don't to withstand to be dragged into that deep end with Kankaanpaa, who's not a slouch with her submission defense. So,
and has good wrestling also.
And has, surprisingly good wrestling for what we've come to expect from a lot of the European fighters, although lately that side of Europe up north is doing a lot better on that. So I don't know. I don't know how Souza would actually win this outside of a quick submission finish that would just come out of nowhere, something maybe somewhat flashy, but Katja's got every advantage possible here, and I would expect nothing less but great action.
Yeah, I will say I think watching some tape on Souza that she's not a great striker. Her game is really only a kicking game from the outside, and at that point, her best way of beating Kankaanpaa is going to be to out-grapple her, and she's not used to going deep into fights, and I really doubt she's going to out-grapple Kankaanpaa, so hard to see her getting a win here. Might be a good showcase fight for Kankaanpaa, and that'll be an opponent really willing to engage her right in her strength for long periods of time, so hopefully
and
it's something
I'm sorry to... Oh. No, go ahead.
Go for it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say that we also have to remember that even though Souza's jiu-jitsu game is that good, MMA jiu-jitsu is going to be different. Let's see how that goes on that end, because we've seen it happen in the past.
Yeah. Souza's got that old Hoist Gracie special going. A couple kicks. Not so much the zombie forward, but it's definitely the same formula of very little on the when it comes to stand up, and everything else lands there. And that's the other thing too. Like if a few submission attempts don't go her way, what's going to happen? Is she going to gas out from trying to end things early? There's a lot of factors when it comes to a fighter with such a weak schedule and depth of resume. So.
Yeah, I gotta say, looking at the people she's fought to, it does appear that in large part she's fought a lot of strikers who she couldn't, who were just like there to be taken down and roughed up on the ground. So that's a tough way to test your grappling against somebody like Kankaanpaa. So it's definitely, I expect it to be a fun fight. I'm just hoping that it's something that Kankaanpaa can really take advantage of and show off a little in. Maybe make yourself look really good out of it. On that note, I think that's about everything we had to talk about for this. Any final points either you guys wanted to get out of there for this fight, this card? I mean, it's a fun card, but it's not a card that's going to be like big on names for a lot of people. Not a lot, not that one Michelle Watterson or Cyborg or big name fighter like that people are really going to show up for. But any other thoughts on it? No? All right. We're done here. You can
No.
find me on Twitter at DZaneSimon. You can find Dio at I'm Just Dio. You can find Vic at Vic M. Rodriguez. And you can find me on Bloody Elbow writing articles. You can find those two on Bloody Elbow trolling commenters. And, we'll be back for the MMA Prospectus, for the 6th round, for Knuckle Up, all that other shit. There's no fights next week, so we'll have, won't have Care Don't Care, Vivisection for any of that. But hang around, subscribe, give the show a like. That's a thumbs up thing. Thank you guys for coming by and talking this card over with me.
Yeah.